Shiki is a troubled, ugly teenager who is one bad day away from mag dumping his entire class. Unsurprisingly, he was expelled from his school for his bad behavior, mostly because he kept threatening to use his classmates as targeting practice. He tries to act like he doesn't care about the fact that he got expelled, but honestly, with the way his life is going right now, he knows he's probably going to be stuck flipping burgers at Mickey D's for the rest of his life. A few moments later, Shiki's dad comes charging into the room and smacks Shiki on the head because he just received the letter informing him of Shiki's expulsion. He can't believe Shiki went and got himself expelled from school like that, and he's so mad that he tries to smack Shiki again, but Shiki already adapted to the attack pattern, so he dodges and jumps back onto his bed. His dad calms himself down after that, but he still wants an explanation from Shiki because he wants to know why he was expelled. He also wants to know how Shiki managed to get all the guns he keeps in his room because having this stuff isn't cheap or legal for that matter. He tells Shiki he needs to stop acting like this before he ruins his life, but hearing that strikes a nerve with Shiki. So he yells at his dad and says he's glad they aren't related by blood because he'd never want to end up like him. That last part really hurts Shiki's dad's feelings, and Shiki knows he took it too far, but before either of them can say another word, the phone rings down in the liquor store Shiki's dad owns, so he heads down to answer it. When he answers the phone, he is surprised to find out that it's a large beer delivery order, but he doesn't get many customers, so he is happy to comply. He heads out in his car to make the delivery, and once Shiki sees him leave, he decides to try some target practice and starts muttering to himself about how he wishes things hadn't turned out this way. All of a sudden, he hears a loud crash sound outside his room, and a moment later, he gets dragged out onto the street by a rope of black mist. Shiki is incredibly disoriented by the fall, and by the time he realizes what's going on, a man named Samadair slowly walks out of the smoke, and he seems to know who Shiki is. Just then, a car comes out of nowhere to ram Samadair into a wall, and once he stops moving, Shiki's father yells for Shiki to get in immediately. Shiki doesn't question it and immediately jumps into his dad's car, but once they are presumably safe, he starts asking a lot of questions. First of all, he wants to know why some crazy man just dragged him out onto the street, and why his dad was so calm about killing him with a car back there. Shiki's dad tells him that there's no way someone like Samadair would die from getting run over by a car. Shiki still has no idea what's going on, so his dad decides that it's time to tell him the truth. He informs Shiki that he is a descendant of the Oni, and Samadair is a descendant of Momotaro, which is why he is so hell-bent on hunting Shiki down. Shiki is so stunned that he doesn't know what to say, and there's a lot more to the story, but his dad doesn't have time to explain all the details because it looks like Sami has caught up to them. Black mist begins to surround the car, and it begins to break down, so Shiki's dad is forced to drive into a nearby abandoned factory so they can get out. After getting out, Shiki turns back and sees the car covered in that strange black mist from before, but before he can ask what that stuff is, the car goes up in a massive ball of flames. In all the chaos, Shiki's dad takes his eyes off Shiki for a second, and in that short time frame, Shiki's butt was kidnapped by the Samadair. Inside the warehouse, Samadair uses his black mist to restrain Shiki in the air. When he is asked why he is doing this, all he has to say is that all who possess Oni blood are nothing more than pests to be exterminated. Samadair is about to execute Shiki once and for all, but before that could happen, Shiki's dad shows up to stop him. As he walks in, he explains that all the legends of Momotaro and the Oni are true, and the battle has been raging on for millennia now. Across the generations, the descendants of Momotaro had all taken up the duty of eliminating the Oni, which is how the Momotaro Agency was formed. Shiki is still confused about all this, but his dad never expected a failure like him to understand immediately anyway. For now, he tells Shiki to just stay put and let him handle Samadair, but as soon as Samadair hears that Shiki's dad intends to challenge him, he creates two swords out of the black mist and charges in with astounding speed. However, Shiki's dad pulls out a mist blade of his own and blocks the attack. The black mist is a unique trait possessed only by the descendants of Momotaro. And here's where the dad lore deepens. Shiki's father was actually a former member of the Momotaro Agency who once worked alongside Samadair. His name used to be Tsuyoshi Momotogawa, however, he left that life behind a long time ago so he could raise Shiki away from the agency's eyes, but unfortunately he couldn't keep Shiki hidden forever. Samadair asks Tsuyoshi if he has forgotten just how dangerous Oni truly are, but Tsuyoshi doesn't want to talk about it. All he wants to do is protect Shiki. Tsuyoshi puts up a good fight against Samadair, but Sami eventually catches him lacking, and in an instant, Tsuyoshi's chest is cut open. He falls to the ground unconscious, and Shiki is horrified by what he just witnessed. He starts yelling at Sami for hurting his dad, so Sami turns to him and prepares to finish Shiki off. But with the last bit of strength he has, Tsuyoshi grabs his leg to stop him from getting to Shiki. Semi asks why Tsuyoshi would go so far to protect an Oni kid, but he says his father doesn't need a reason to protect his son. Shiki may not be the best student or person for that matter, and he may have Oni blood in him. But he has never hurt anyone before, so Tsuyoshi asks how Semi could possibly bring himself to kill an innocent child like this. Tsuyoshi's words sting because he has been having regrets about everything he has done lately, but he doesn't want to listen to this anymore, so he summons his sword and prepares to finish Tsuyoshi off. Shiki is helpless as he watches his father about to die at the hands of Sami, and the only thought going through his head right now is how much he wants to kill Tsuyoshi. Blood begins to drip from every orifice in his body as his mind is overcome with sheer hatred, and by the time Samudera turns his attention back to Shiki, he's no longer there. The next thing Sami knows, he hears the sound of several guns getting cocked next to his head, and he is so startled that he instinctively jumps back, narrowly avoiding the attack, but he still has no idea where Shiki is. Just then, he sees a drop of blood land on the floor, so he looks up and finds an awakened Shiki hanging off the ceiling. Sami can't believe Shiki was able to awaken his Oni abilities and control his blood in such a short time, but what truly makes Oni terrifying is the fact that they lack a sense of humanity, so they are unbelievably brutal. Sami readies his sword in preparation for Shiki's next attack, but once Shiki starts firing blood missiles at him, Sami realizes this is too much for him to handle and starts running away. He eventually manages to escape the blast radius, but that doesn't mean the battle is over because Shiki emerges from the smoke and kicks Sami so hard that he is knocked into a pile of rubble and is barely conscious now. Shiki then stands over him and unleashes every weapon he has stored in his arsenal at once. The warehouse is destroyed in the mayhem, but surprisingly, Sami managed to survive the attack, and even more surprising is the fact that Shiki suddenly transforms back into a human. Shiki is confused and wonders why his entire body is covered in blood, which is a normal response given the situation, and Sami plans to take advantage of the confusion to finish Shiki off before he transforms again. He begins charging towards Shiki, while repeating that all Oni must be eliminated with no exceptions. Shiki isn't able to control his transformation at will yet, so he is pretty much a sitting duck right now. However, as his blade is about to strike, Tsuyoshi jumps out in front of him and takes the hit instead. Semi can't believe that Tsuyoshi would go as far as to sacrifice his life for an Oni, but Tsuyoshi recalls the good old days he spent with Shiki, and he honestly doesn't mind dying here since he got to live a fulfilling life. Samudera has grown tired of this fight, and all the destruction they cause is starting to draw the attention of the crowd, so since the Momotaro agency must remain secret, Samudera withdraws for now and fades away into a mass of black mist. Once Samudera is gone, Tsuyoshi collapses into Shiki's arms and Shiki is really worried about him, so he says he's going to call an ambulance, but Tsuyoshi tells him that no hospital can save him at this point. It's only a matter of time before he dies, so he would like to talk to Shiki one last time. First of all, he apologizes for keeping the truth from him all this time, but it's not exactly an easy topic to bring up in conversation. Unfortunately, he won't be here much longer, so he can't offer much in the way of support, but he tells Shiki to make sure he gets stronger in the future so he can beat both the Momotaro group and Oni so he can live a truly free life. Shiki yells at his dad for talking as if he has already died because he doesn't plan on letting that happen. He begins carrying Tsuyoshi to the hospital, and seeing Shiki show so much concern for him puts a smile on Tsuyoshi's face. But his wounds are way too severe, so after taking a few steps, Tsuyoshi loses all strength in his body and collapses to the floor. Shiki desperately begs his father to get up because he still hasn't gotten a chance to apologize and make up for all the hurtful things he said about him this morning, but it's already too late because Tsuyoshi is gone. Shiki sits there for a moment and cries over his dad's corpse, but all of a sudden, someone rolls up behind him and says he can't stay here because there will be too many witnesses. Shiki is startled, so he prepares for another fight, but before he could even turn around, he gets chopped in the neck and is knocked out instantly. It takes a lot of skill to be able to sneak up on someone with roller skates on, so Shiki clearly never stood a chance against him to begin with. Meanwhile, the leaders of the Momotaro agency are all in an uproar because they just found out about Samudera's failed attempt to eliminate Shiki, and they are starting to wonder if he has gotten weaker. But given the situation, they can't blame him for withdrawing since they can't let the public find out about their existence. However, they also don't want the public to become aware of the existence of Oni, so they plan to kill Shiki as soon as they can get their hands on him. However, that's going to be nearly impossible now because after getting knocked out, he was taken to a remote island in the middle of nowhere, and the idea is to enroll Shiki in a school full of half-Onis just like him so he can train his abilities properly. But before that, NATO is going to need to do a thorough evaluation to find out whether Shiki is going to be useful or not, and I can already tell that it's not going to be a fun experience. This was the end of episode 1. Subscribe to not miss the next part.